This meeting is being recorded. Recording in progress.
Gosh.
It's that or Yolandi Vissa really that I can do the two voices.
I am not good at mimicking like that at all.
Um,
Fascinating trait, and I think it's really cool.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
That's how the spirits get you though.
Mhm.
I want more porridge. Okay, real talk. What are our porridge recipes? What are we doing for winter? What is the house spirit getting?
So there's a couple,
Mhm.
but my favorite is like I don't do milk, but I do almond milk. I will boil that rice down and send good almond milk. We've got cinnamon, we've got cardamom, we've got mint in there, raisins. I make it very sweet, and then if I'm feeding it to my tonttu friend or tonte, like I give them their pat of butter. Um, Definitely reserve some for the dead because who doesn't love a good rice porridge, right?
The dead love two things: water
Mhm.
and starch.
You want some rice? Yes. The answer is always yes.
That's just always yes.
Yes.
There was a meme going around that was like a skeleton. I don't even know what comic it's from, but it was like a skeleton going like, "I would like a glass of water," and I sent it to anyone who's psychic, like anyone in my life. I don't care what tradition you're in. Like, I don't even care what your background is. Like, you will understand.
Yeah, I definitely do. Oh, you mean the water glasses I continuously have to clean?
Yes. I found out I was recently initiated into a very secret art form, which is called the tray. My mom was like, "I don't understand why you do all these offerings on a tray. Put all that shit on one tray. Take it all to or like a washing basin. Take it all to the sink. Clean them all. Put them back." I was doing one by one. Uh, I'm not clever.
I think it's more like an organization system.
Yeah.
Class belongs to this spirit. Like, do not forget that this class belongs to this spirit.
I know. I've started marking them.
Like that.
Mhm. Little Sharpie on the bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Initials.
it's literally. It's like children. Like, you're like, now this is little Johnny's. Like,
So nice though for like 20 identical vessels, the paint pen of arts. Ooh.
you know I get my stemware from Chinatown. Like, that shit is getting marked for sure.
Yeah.
'Cause it's identical and efficacious.
I
Well,
have these at the dollar store for all of my glasses.
yeah. Well, sorry, your porridge sounds decadent. It's got nuts, it's got grains, it's got sweets.
It does. What is yours?
Yeah, I mean, for the spirits, can't go wrong with just nice and plain oatmeal milk with a little tiny touch of salt. Barely any, and then just a nice big knob of butter right in the middle so that it just melts over the top and the whole thing is just a delicious sheen at the end.
Yes. Absolutely.
Also, for the humans, though, in my life, as a similar sort of offering to bring them to my side, the savory oatmeal is a go-to. The specifically this Korean one that is cheesy grits almost with kimchi, and then you fry it up in a pan.
I wonder who you learned this recipe from.
Yeah, right. It's a secret. Who could possibly?
I'm hungry.
Yeah.
It's not even really me. I was just the one to forward it to you. But like, if you're listening to this, Google kimchi cheese oatmeal. It is actually incredible. Yeah. I think for my stuff with my spirits, I definitely like the house spirit gets a good oatmeal porridge. Like it will be plenty of butter, as you were saying as well. There'll be milk, there'll be cinnamon, a bit of clove, a hint of nutmeg. And I like mine pretty spiced. But another thing that I've been really doing a lot is kind of a trinity of porridges. One will be that one. One will be kovani gris, which is a cream of wheat that we make in Serbia. It's heavy cream, milk, water, and vanilla sugar with cream of wheat and some more sugar. And you really just on medium low for a long time until it becomes that kind of, I don't know, like global ancestor food of mush that's white.
The Latin effect. Gelatinous.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's gonna look like a cornstarch slurry at the end, actually, but it's really tasty. And then I also love polpara. The problem with polpara, which is a bread porridge, is that it's so filling, and it's usually actually done savory. It's like day-old white bread, cooked in milk and water and butter and feta cheese, and some salt. Is my dad, like, the joke in our family was that he eats papura with bread on the side. Like, it's so filling and it's so intense, but he'll still somehow manage to actually have like an actual full-on, not the stuff that, me at North Americans, not what you think is sliced bread. I mean sliced as in, like, a thick boy, okay? Like a full, like, European style, you cut half the bread with table. And I don't know how he does it, but his metabolism was definitely better back then.
I love that.
Be not alarmed at the frightful howls which you may hear. It's Svinga.
Hey.
And bringing the oatmeal to a rolling boil key.
These bees get worse every time.
Yeah, they're
Yeah, but actually this time it makes sense. It is odd, but I think that we dropped some good recipes, and what I want to hear from you, especially if you're in our Patreon Discord, I'd love to hear your house spirit and or people food porridge of art. What brings people to the yard? What milkshake and what porridge are we calling today? To get your friends full and happy, people asking for seconds, and your house spirit bring all the luck and fortune in the new year. Let us know what your recipe is. If you want to join us, please come on by at patreon.com/the Frightful Howls. We have a bonus episode every month curated by and just for our patrons. We got a Discord server where you can hang out with us and share recipes, a monthly live occult book club where we discuss a text of your choosing or a movie of your choosing. I think December we're doing Weapons, the 2025 film, featuring a villain that did nothing wrong, ever. No, we'll analyze that. I think I'm joking. I just whatever, let a woman live. Show notes for every episode and a whole tier for monthly group spell work from us on your behalf. Actually, if you're listening to this, it's already done. But this it's become a tradition around Saint Nicholas's Day, Svetý Nikola, and Serbian Orthodox calendar, December 19th, where we're going to be doing a continual group working that's not just for the patrons but also the broader community, and all proceeds will be donated to spiritual communities that Key and I are part of.
And while you are checking us out online, be sure to remember to give us a like, rating, and review on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you might be listening to us. It helps us fight the demiurge of the algorithm and rake in more oats that we can then cook for our spirits.
The more likes we get, the more oats we can get for our house spirits. The more people who are able to attend the feasts, the more prosperity that flows through all our doors. Say your EO sub oats at the Lion Serpent, please. And while you're at it, check out our services. Key offers whatever. No. He offers, I don't know, you offer everything. I'm just like, I do beans. He offers personalized coaching and magic and mediumship, especially for higher readings, custom talismans, oils, tools, you name it. He does it for a price to be determined.
Yeah, hire me to say Iao Sabaoth at the lion-headed demiurge on your behalf.
Literally, you could just get him to do that, honestly. Like, girl, make your own Patreon. I offer bulk and 5 minutes readings. If you want your beans read, come to me. And we both offer occasional limited occult wares over on withcunningandcommand.com. And lastly, hit us up on social media. I'm at Dragon Cunning, and Key is at barnowl.key. And as you heard, we have the lovely voice of a very dear friend of ours, Sarah Jezebel, who is here with us in the studio, as it were, in the astral, to chat with us about the current season. Welcome, Sarah.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, well, and also so happy to have you. And you've been giving us feedback on the show for a long time. And one of the things that's been such a joy now to have you on for episode 71 is having benefited both of us greatly from your candles, your classes, your wisdom, your humor over the years. I'm so excited to introduce you to the folks who have joined us on this journey. Because I mean, how many times have we heard from somebody that we care about and we really admire to be like, oh man, like if there's the one candle that did it for me this year, it was Lovey Arts. That was the one that really set something in motion. That was the major one that really did something for me. Like I literally have sang the praises of one of your lines to several friends because that was integral to our Aphrodite workings last year. Actually, was your Aurora Borealis one that I kept in secret and didn't burn for years until it was ready. So thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, I'm glad to be here, and thank you for saying that. That always is refreshing to hear, uh,
Mhm.
because when you're making, I mean, you can think of it as a candle is wax and in a mold and all these sort of like pieces of it, but it's so much more. And that specific candle was such a beautiful unfolding of kind of the energy of the Aurora Borealis into this like really artistic formation of like getting to play with a bunch of different wax colors and doing it all by hand and painting it all
Mm.
by hand. So much attention and effort and focus went into each one of those. It was a lovely collab that I did with Sasha. So
Mhm. Yeah, but you can see the dedication and just I can only imagine the patience it takes to make that rippling effect actually take a root and to have it be so intentional as opposed to just kind of messy. Like
yeah.
it's remarkable. It really is.
Yeah, it's all about candle temperature. Wow. You're just like waiting for the right time but yeah, like for those who don't know, a part of my candle creations, my spell candles specifically are painted with wax on the outside of a mold. So instead of just like a molded candle, there's like a base that I then take and pour various waxes that have either fragrances or herbs or what have you kind of over them in a timing frame and in the proper temperature to make them kind of look at like those as those very aesthetic kind of candles that we all want our candles to look like.
And they do. But the difference is yours actually do a shit ton of juju.
That too.
Well, you can find Sarah's work at loviarts.com. That's loviartes.com. The Instagram is the same, and also you can follow her at instagram.com/Sarah Jezebel. Um, so we've been talking for a while about chatting a little about the seasons because we did an earlier episode this year that was more about spring and summer, and this is specifically this kind of Yuletide solstice season is the best. Unequivocally, I think it's one of the most interesting times as well for what is it to remember what has happened, what is it to take root of some new patterns that you want to manifest and push through as the days slowly get longer, and also, what is it to honor all of those spirits that have stood by us this whole time, and house spirits I think are at the foremost. Can you, for people who are less familiar with you, could you tell us a little bit about your background and sort of like what appeals to you about this time of year, and what does it mean for you in your practice?
So for me, this time of year really harkens to my ancestors. Part of my family is from Finland, but
Hmm.
a very specific part of Finland. It's on the southwestern coast of Finland, a small population of Swedish-speaking Finns. And interestingly enough, a lot of my candle work is also tied to that ancestry work. When my candle Lovi, when that all came together, was during COVID. COVID project turned something more. But it was specifically my ancestors who were really, really pushing me to do that work. And it was actually during this time of year that I started making candles for the very first time for the public. And so that's about 5 years now. And so um, doing a bunch of ancestral research and really keying into the practices of my family, what I remember from childhood, but even more so the lost pieces that occurred from coming over to the United States and finding that bridge from here to there. And that happened in 2020 with one of my family members from Finland literally reaching out to me and being like, "Hey, we're cousins. How are you?" And me going like, "Holy cow, this is wild." And so the series of conversations that led to there, and then talking about practices in the family from there, was really kind of what put me into really celebrating this Yuletide, and this deeper sort of ancestral vibe and house spirit vibe. In all of Scandinavia and Finland, we have these house spirits, gnomes, elves, that are either called nisse or tonttu, or in Finnish, it's tonttu. And they are primarily celebrated and fed during this time of year because the end of the year ends up being that kind of that celebration of the harvest, really making sure all the spirits of the house are fed. And there's such a deep agricultural heritage in Finland. Like, part of the reason why my family even came over was to find more farmland. So I come from a very like farm based um, heritage, ancestral lineage, and still have a farm in the family. But so the celebration of these house spirits, specifically these tonttus, um, are these spirits that help specifically with taking care of the land, taking care of the animals, um, being present with, like, if you treat your tonttu well, you're going to have a good year, and if you don't, bad fortune is going to follow you, right? So this whole coming back to, like, are you feeding your house spirits? And during this time of year, we absolutely feed our tonttu this rice porridge with a big old fat piece of butter in it, to thank them for all of the hard work they've done through the year.
Oh yeah. Love, love, love the fat knob of butter in a porridge for house spirit. But no, I always love hearing about the similar practices that spread out kind of over the German, Scandinavian, Dutch diaspora of, like, here are these guys running around who, if you keep them happy and importantly fed, they will help you out around the house and even do so much more with, the house as the extension of everything that you're doing and the point from which everything comes and goes and can interact with yourself.
Yeah, you don't want an angry house spirit. I think
Oh my gosh.
like, there are stories of, house spirits, like tonttus, basically, um, turning on their
Mhm.
people because they didn't get their porridge, or they were disrespected, or someone ate their porridge. Like, do not ever eat your house spirit's porridge. Like, please do not, like, if you have visitors, don't let it happen, because it spells bad news for you and for them. But
Yeah.
yeah, you definitely, there are also there's this idea in Finland also, like, with the Christmas feast, even
Mhm.
leftovers and food being left on the table so the house spirits can eat from the table.
Mhm.
Like,
Mm.
sort of, so it's like you've got the good beer, you've got the good wine, you've got the leftovers and more from the Christmas feast, and everybody including ancestors, because in Finland there's a lot of this idea of like your dead kind of come back to visit you during this time, to celebrate the holiday with you. So
Yeah.
It's always really fascinating too with the house spirits almost incorporating into the ancestral matrix in that way, even coming so far as to, share a meal at the table with the family, kind of in that position of esteem if leftovers.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We, Badnevich, so that's Christmas Eve, is probably one of the most important days of the ritual calendar, sometimes even more important than Christmas itself. It's really when you're giving gifts, it's when you're exchanging a lot of things, it's when you're doing a lot of divination. The house spirit is absolutely, whether your house spirit in the Slavic context is more like a domovoi, like people have probably are more familiar with that term. It's become kind of like a pan-Slavic term to mean like a little grandfather, like gnome who lives in your home and tends to the fertility of the house. I grew up calling the spirit a domachin, meaning like a little master. But we typically, like at least where I'm from in my training, it's actually a serpent. It's a zmija čuvrkucha. It's a white snake. Literally the name means serpent, that is the house guardian that gets fed at this time, and scraps from the table, a whole lavish feast, absolutely. But like it's said that the whole year, really going forward, much like as many as these kinds of seasonal customs of divination around the end of the year, the whole year will be as lavish as Christmas Eve is. So it's actually beneficial to overeat, indulge, because you want the blessings to carry over in the following months, so things will get more scarce. And you would invite the dead to come back and participate in the celebrations, to strengthen ties to them as well. And if you want to seek like spirits on Christmas Eve, it's said that you could like remove the Orthodox cross you're wearing on your neck and place it around your left heel, or under it, while you're eating. Because then, while the blessed meal is eaten with the hands and not with iron or steel cutlery, so that the good luck doesn't get destroyed by the violence of iron, you can scry even into the gravy. And you can see the faces of the dead. You can scry into the main candle. You could do a battery of prayers over each plate. You might carve out the center of the Christmas loaf, the kind of bread that we make for this, a chestnitsa, and use it as a future Eucharist, left out in the church that way, or the rest is taken home and given to the dead. But we also do that fun little divination that Key's participated in now, which is like you put a coin in it and you like do like dance around with it and keep passing it around, then people just pull from it and pull from it and pull from it until the person who has the coin gets the fortune for the rest of the year, if they don't lose it. So when you get it, don't lose it, and keep it in your phone case or something. When I've won, I've kept it with my house spirit, actually, because I know that's what it'll be.
I think that's that we mentioning the snake really reminded me that that's actually similar within like there is this idea, like if you see a snake in the house, that it's associated with the house spirit, and that it should be treated as such. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's interesting. I with this time of year, I always think about with Christmas Eve. For us, that would be January 6th, but it would be there's this big practice of the badnik. The badnik is a pre-Christian probably inheritance, but it's really a tree branch, usually of the Austrian oak, that's or the entire tree, that is placed in a fire on Christmas Eve, and the branches are then brought home by individual people who feed it to their own hearths, and the hearth is where the house spirit lives. So there's plenty of different reasons that this is done. Sometimes the log burns throughout Christmas Day, and then the first visitor has to strike at it with a poker to make the sparks fly while wishing for happiness. My grandmother in her village, like there's one person who would do it. He would bring it in for her because she was, my grandfather had passed and she couldn't quite do it herself. But there's a whole like little dialogue that happens where you invite them in and you scare the old spirits away. But like you can use parts of it as switches for livestock to kind of increase their fertility and their health and so on. The oak, like the celebration of the oak and like the veneration of the oak, is a really big thing. It's a kind of world tree for us as well. And precursors to this are really from the Koleda festivals of which are now carnival. But one of the things that I really like about this particular species, and usually it's either Austrian or Turkish oak, but it can be other ones too. The thing I love about the kind of oak veneration of this time is as the young oak is transported by the head of the house, often accompanied by male family members, into these different spaces. Sometimes there's traditional announcements like shooting into the air, which signaling we're leaving the cutting site. Sometimes you may take a splinter from the tree and put it into beehives to like protect them. You may lean the whole tree against like the top of the house and then take the log in. You might put a little piece of it in the bread dough for prosperity, but ultimately something always goes on the hearth. Like that's the whole ceremony is about bringing the log into the hearth and singing with it, and just all kinds of really interesting songs and chants that accompany this. Like one that the one that people might be familiar with if you're from Serbia is Koliko Valenca, toliko srećica. And it goes for, I won't read the whole thing in Serbian, but like it basically goes as many sparks, so many fortune, as many sparks, so many types of money, as many sparks, so many sheep, as many sparks, so many piglets and lambs, as many sparks, as many geese and chickens, and most of all, health and joy, amen. God give it to us. And the idea is that the sparking is the hearth, which is this belly of the house, and where the house spirit truly lives when it hides from you, because it can be a little shy and doesn't want to be seen. And that's them now taking and distributing all this fortune. So half of what you're saying really is meant for the house spirit to hear as an instruction, is like, this is what I want, the strength and the fertility and the power of this important oak, how I want that like living fire, as we call it, it's made from it, to light up different areas of our life, and everyone who bears witness to it to receive a portion of that blessing, to know that they are a welcome guest and that they are part of that family as well.
That's beautiful. It reminds me a little bit of like sauna culture, similar, different, right? Sauna is really big in Finland on Christmas
Uh-huh.
Eve. And there's a lot of folklore around, the cleansing, and instead of oak, it's birch. And so gathering the birch leaves and like hitting yourself with birch as a form of cleansing, the body. And even you can have several tonttus on the land. You can have a sauna tonttu, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so you even have a spirit of the sauna that, like it's suggested that even after you have your Christmas Eve sauna, you leave the sauna going for a little bit for the spirit itself to sort of, enjoy the cleansing and the steam and everything that you just and took in yourself. So a little, it's a different sort of hearth,
Mm.
a steam
Yeah.
hearth.
I love that. We have the bamik, which is the kind of the bathhouse spirit, like the house spirit of the bathhouse, that we feed them fir branches as well, because like fir is a wood that's used a lot for fanning the sauna. And it's so cool because I had never seen one before. And then I went to a sauna for the first time, like ever in my whole life. And I was like getting ready and I was like getting down to my like bathing suit, and I was really excited to sit on the thing. And like as I'm watching the people who attend to the sauna like pour water onto the rocks, actually I should correct myself, let me be accurate. It wasn't water, they were putting a snowball that they put essential oils into onto the rocks. It was pretty cool. And fanning it at us, I was like, who is that little grandpa, the little half naked guy that's just chilling over there in the corner? And I was like, I didn't bet it's for real. I mean, like, it was pretty awesome. I left him a little bit of a treat afterwards, as a thank you. But it was I mean, what a beautiful place to regenerate and to brave the cold and to seek, like, literally, like, to move the humors of the body and during a time when so many of us are more still.
Yeah. I think something interesting too about kind of like the pronouncements that you were mentioning, as like you're kind of saying it to no one, but it's instructions for the house spirit, really. I was curious if, you know, this taboo also applies for you, Sarah, where it's like the direct address of the house spirit can be a little finicky, as like a notoriously evasive or elusive or, I guess, temperamental class of spirits.
Yes. So the Absolutely agree. There is that sort of evasiveness. There is also that like finickiness of just like the general temperament, keeping on good, will is very important with
Mm.
your house spirit. Like it's important to be clear. It's important to not forget the things that are part of that relationship. Right? Like they shoulder a lot of weight and a lot of work for the house, right? They keep things in working order. They help with the animals. There's a really lovely little children's book. Oh gosh, I forget the name of it right now, but that it kind of goes through and shows you how much work the tonttu, the nisse, the tonte are doing while you're sleeping, and they're tending to everything for you. Um and really keeping everything in order, so that directness and like praying for wealth and speaking that out into the house is also pretty key. Speaking charms, singing charms is big in Finland too, where just sort of putting it all out there, for what is to be a bountiful year. There's a lot of also like folklore around straw, specifically clean straw, having a lot of straw in the house, like having the house be really, everybody gets a good amount of fresh straw. There's also like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with those. This comes from you see them in Scandinavia a lot, like those straw ornaments.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
This comes from this idea, right? Like that everybody has this fresh straw that they're getting for this feast season, right? And so we're making ornaments of them. You have the joulupuki, which is like the Yule goat, right? Like that. You have the little bow on, and you put on your tree, and all of this is seen as like proving abundance, to keep abundance flowing into the new year.
Mm. Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, I remember even just as a kid, I was always told, like, don't they're shy, but they're also finicky, like, don't address them super directly. But you and also, I don't know if you have this taboo, but for us, like, we don't typically thank them directly, but we can say, "I appreciate this. I'm grateful." But we don't say, like, "Thank you" too much to the house sparrow, but we will be like, well, we kind of oblique with how we address things. But one of our big things is we always have to say, this person's coming over. It's this person's birthday, because and just around their shrine. And one of the things that it does is it helps them kind of keep track. Okay, the dust has to be swept up by then. There's more energy for everyone in the house to do chores and so on and so forth. There's this feeling of the house spirit's pride is also how good of a host you can be, because it transfers on them. So that's one of those things too. With like, I love the notion of the straw. Like everyone's gonna have some fresh straw, and that way, I think for us with the oak too. Um, whether as originally very likely a kind of holdover of the Perun mythology, because oak is such an important tree to that deity, or in the Orthodox theology, the banyak being the wood gathered by the shepherds to warm the cave in Bethlehem where Christ was born, and to shield Jesus and Mary from the cold. Like either way, there's this notion of sharing. Everyone will have some warmth or something fresh or something clean in the time when we need it most in order to endure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I always found the binding stuff for me is so interesting because sometimes people associate with the cross of Calvary because of the way you have to carry it around and so on. But and all kind there's like so many notions of what is it to source blessed logs in the diaspora. Like I've read some stuff about like Serbians in America and Canada and like how they bring it home and so on. But really with the house spirit, what I find interesting about like feeding them and like nourishing them in this time is you're also in some ways saying thank you for all times that you did this for me and I didn't even realize it throughout the year. Like times when like I think about this a lot with magic. Like how many times am I? It's like I could complain when bad things happen to me, but what about the things that didn't? What about the times when I was spared for something even harder or worse, and it was one of my spirits who intervened, and like I won't necessarily know that they intervened because it didn't happen, but the house spirit being this kind of like noble character that is always around, often thankless, doing so much and giving. I mean, when I miss my alarm, like that, I know it's them who help me get up, or I have a charm under the threshold of my door. with my house spirit that it's just herbs from memory. And so as I'm crossing the door, I like, oh, I forgot my keys. Oh, I forgot this. I'll suddenly remember what it is that I missed. To the point that friends who visit me know that like you can't leave my house without me like rubber banding back and being like, whoops, forgot something. But they're like an invisible teammate in some way, not just as a regular spirit, but as somebody who literally is their purpose and their interest is in keeping the house healthy. And I think that for people who move around a lot, it's interesting around how to move with your house spirit. In your experience, do you, or in the Finnish folklore, can you move a house spirit with you, or do you get a new one when you move to a new place? Is it a spirit that can be passed on in generations, or is it more linked to one structure?
So it's interesting. So there is folklore specifically around belonging to the land, right? And that the person who owned that land first could be the spirit, right? Like, so it becomes ancestralized
Mm.
and have family land where the first part of your family of whoever owned that land first then becomes the house spirit. So it's ancestralized as well as, and the idea is from what I have experienced is like if you're on new land, you're going to have a new spirit. You can also call in a house spirit, like if you have not been able to communicate one with one or settle into a relationship, you can put 4 coins at the corners of the foundation of the house and call to them and they show up, so that there's a relationship that can start being built. But yeah, so there's this
Mhm.
fascinating idea that, the house spirit is somehow ancestralized.
I love that. Yeah, a lot of the folklore I'm familiar with from the Balkans is very similar. Like it's the first person who owned the land, or it's an ancestralized form of that person. Um, a lot of the studies say that like this was originally a serpent cult. It was a cult of snakes that were ancestors, but the over time they became more encompassed in this like kind of gnome like grandfather figure that we call the little grandfather. Um, and their divinations and their omens are often pertaining to, like, not just the health of the land and, like, we make bread for them and we give crumbs to, like, the attic or the corners of the bed or to the livestock and so on if it's a farm. There's a lot of stuff that we do around, like, farming traditions in that way. But they also respond in interesting divinatory omens. Like, I remember reading one source that was like, they'll pull the hair of a woman to let her know, "Hey, someone who's here." It's like if a woman keeps having her hair pulled by the house spirit, it's like they're trying to warn her that one of the men in the house is abusive, or and give her like a heads up about that. Or sometimes they'll like claw and fight for control over a household if it's two ones who like were buried there and were upset, and now like there's not an opportunity for them to actually cooperate. You can move with one. You can move the serpent with you by giving it a boot and being like, "I'm not looking. I'm not looking." You know, you go in it when you're ready. You put some coins and some breadcrumbs in there, and then you pick up a boot when it's heavier, and you bring it with you. And the first thing at the door, like when I moved houses, the first thing in the house was a boot. And then I literally sat there with the movers, and I was like, "Don't even, don't." And then later on, I checked the boot, and it was light. And I'm like, "Okay, cool. Bring the furniture in." Um, but the dedushka or, like, the little, like, grandfather ones, that one stayed where I was because that was the one of that house, and he wanted to stay. So, my serpent came with me because there were you can get multiple house spirits that kind of once you get them to cooperate, they can do their thing, but it was definitely one of those situations where,
Mhm.
I could bring one with me, but it was the one that already knows how to burrow.
That makes a lot
Yeah.
of sense.
Mhm.
It's always interesting for me to see the distinctions, especially from like the kind of German and Dutch context, because there exists both kind of on a geographic spectrum of north to south. So this kind of land spirit who then ancestralizes and invites in is something that you definitely see in the north, where like there are some questions about, is this a spirit that already existed? Like in a lot of like the old High German and like middle High German sources of this, like there's speculation that they're evolving out of like the hearth cults essentially. And anywhere that the hearth sustains the home, that worship is then mapped onto this localized figure. Or there's kind of a proposed like spectrum of evolution from things that are like just in the environment, like a specific spirit that is causing poltergeist phenomena and like is doing the knocking on the walls, who then just starts doing chores out of boredom, which is a great place to be, I guess. Shout outs to those who can't procrastinate. But then are invited in and further ancestralized, like you were mentioned, until they are just as much a member of the family unit and of the household as any incarnate or living person thereby. Um, and it's kind of cool to see the spectrum, whereas this comes from north to south. From south to north, you also have the inheritance of the different serpent cults in the forms of the drache. And, even if you go and look at like the Proto-Indo-European into Germanic languages studies, there's some cool articles from like Schrader and like those type of people about how the Agathos daemon and its kind of serpentine features were assimilated into a hearth veneration there. So as they bleed together, you get this whole mangled mass of, is this ancestor, is this serpent, is this ancestor serpent? Is it something that just showed up? And the answer is yes to all of them, kind of.
Mm-hmm. Claude de Couture and the
Mhm.
tradition of the household spirits is a great section exploring some of the origins from like the little Eldman line, like the little earthmen.
Yeah.
And also just the notions of like the kabouters in the Netherlands, the Menschen, the Weibelin, the Frauen, the Fraulein, these little like men and women. Then the ones with the capped hoods, the different stove spirits, the masters of the home, and so on. Quite a bit of depth is different kinds, and also just a notion of Latvian, Estonian, Finnish, Lithuanian, Swedish, like all these different cultures having this shared understanding that like the first dead inhabitant can become a house spirit. So I'm really glad, Sarah, that you raised that point, because it was something, even just the notion of like, what is it to ancestralize so much that your identity cannot be separated from the health of the home, because people are inheriting the home. Like eventually, like either somebody will inherit it, either the oldest son or like a new family move in, but it's still kept within the family line, and the farm is kept within the family line. So like, I think about all these like rituals for like apologizing to a house spirit, getting one to like come back to you if they fled. Half of it is like, maybe you kill a rooster on a particular feast day and you put the head under the house where the icon corner will be, and be like, this is for you. You're as holy as the saints. I welcome you into this place. Leaving a portion of bread and porridge for them in like the right handmost corner of the attic, and saying like, I remember you, grandfather. Even if you don't remember your own name anymore, I remember you. I remember that we came from you, and I ask that you. I know that without you, there is none of this. Nothing. All the fighting and stupid bullshit and the gossiping and the evil nature that we do in this and under these roofs, like this, none of it would exist if it were not for you. And so come back to us and bless us and keep us going, so that there'll be more people to keep living in this home in the future.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating too, because it was way more common for the inheritance of houses, right? We're so much more mobile now, right? And I think about like when I made contact with my cousin in Finland, she was like, "Yeah, they're literally exactly where they were." Like, they have not moved from where they were when my part of the family left and came here, like, and I think that's a thing that has shifted so much, like within the current culture here in the United States. People are more migratory, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're moving a lot more, and I think that shifts our ideas of house spirits too, and like relationships with the house spirits, and like, like, because can have like, I live in an apartment building. I have, the spirit of my apartment, but there's also like the spirit of the building, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and what is that? And how do you have good relationships in those ways, like, and honor that within your practice. Um, I think that's definitely, it's relationship building on a different level, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
'cause I can't tend to anybody else's apartment spirit. That's
Yeah.
business. Um, could you imagine?
Could you imagine? The superintendent, Sarah.
Here's your
God.
little, here's your little rice board. Like tiny little handing them out. It would be
Just like in those like disposable like little cups. Yeah. Everyone gets a shot of rice porridge.
and good for you. Good for you.
I think that the bribing of that is interesting though. Like you live in an apartment and you could be like, well, in case people want to increase rent or in case there's some kind of issue going on, I just want everyone to remember that I'm the one feeding the spirits here. And you can talk to the building. I'm sure you could talk to like the whole structure itself if you've been feeding the corners of things. But the house spirit, I think it raises an interesting question because we've had people ask us in the Q&A is like, I live in a flat, I live in an apartment. Like where could my house spirit live? I don't have a fireplace. Like I don't even like what does house count? Is it only the apartment? Like in my experience, it's individual apartments or houses for sure, in the sense that like spirits recognize the sovereignty of these places, and the kitchen is as good a hearth as any. But the oven or anything, but they will interact like the way that you interact with your neighbors. They will interact with the greater building spirit in a different kind of relationship.
Yes. And sometimes if you live in an apartment, they attract friends. I had that happen where it was like, oh, hello.
Hey, y'all mind if my boy pull up? Like,
because obviously if you live in an apartment situation, not everybody's doing perhaps the work that you're doing. And spirits of places and homes, they like attention.
Notice.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
notice. They notice who's doing what. And if you have a regular practice of feeding your house on any level, which I do, and I know you guys do, it satiates your space and stuff around it, but also becomes a bit of a magnet, for other friends who you can then either choose to have relationships with or be like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It becomes a lighthouse for sure for the dead, for ambient beings, for other spirits. Spirits who get a little adjacent neighbors that get a little jealous and are like, I would like some rice porridge too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ambient dead's a big thing in an apartment building. I live in a pre-war building in New York City, so there's a lot of ambient dead here, and and that can work to a certain degree, and I think we all have our practices of making sure that kind of keeps in check, and your house doesn't just become a wayfair for wandering souls, but yeah, the honoring of that, the honoring of the building, right, like as an entity, as its own spirit.
Totally. In some ways becomes like an extension of community guardians or like village guardians, because it's like, oh, here's a building that now has like 50 different families living in it. Let's maybe address that as such. And like you were saying, that has its own complications when, your next door neighbor's family is having issues and their spirits are like, hey, something's going on over here. It's like, okay, guys, come on. Let's this is my place.
Yep. There's definitely a little of that. And I think it's like your relationship is a little bit different when you rent versus when you own. I do think there's a difference between those layers of relationship. Like when you and I've heard this from many people, when you own something, it deepens everything. Relationships there.
Yeah. In one of my traditions that I practice like for serving folk magic, like it's said that like if you are if someone is in your house with, even if it's you, if someone gets possessed, if someone like mounts as it were, the first spirit that they will hail is the house spirit, because they'll be like, that's the one who owns this land, and so I can't even be here without their permission. But also like if the person who owns the house is in the room, then they'll also be like, and you too. Like, and you're the owner. You're the one who inherited a deed from the house spirit, and that can become a very intense thing. Like suddenly the house speaks to you more. Like the walls are more noisy when you own the home. Like they want more things. Like there's a lot more there's a lot more than just mortgage payments now. There's also like if you're a spirit worker, there's a sense of like the chimney wants something from me. This the spirit in this rafters wants something from me. Like they're a lot more like, hey, like I think in some ways like when that shift happens, you kind of understand what your house spirit's been dealing with all along as a kind of secretary, as a kind of somebody who like is negotiating whether it's the iterant wandering dead or whether it's your court or whether it's you initiate into a tradition, you bring a bunch of spirits home from that tradition, and the house spirits like, oh my god, it's a lot of new people. Like, they're the ones who are always having to kind of find some balance to it all, and to keep the flow going.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the flow of the home is important, like
Mm-hmm.
I think of that, of just like that's where prosperity really can begin and start, is just like the flowing of those relationships in your life, like I mean, they say like if your house is in disorder, what does that mean, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
what does that reflect in your life, and we have these busy lives, and we're always like, I was joking with a friend recently. I was like, cleaning is like this Sisyphean task where you're just like, again, again, like, but there is a health to that is a maintaining of health, right? Like spiritual health, mental health, physical health, right? Like this idea
Yeah.
of before starting like huge ritual tasks, making sure your home is clean, right? Like having all of that sort of the entity of the home being taken care of before anything else occurs that night, right?
Mm,
And
Yeah.
how that can impact work that's happening that night, right? Like,
mm.
Yeah. It's like that, when does the ritual end? When the last dish is clean and put away. you know, our dear mutual friend, Jesse Hathaway Diaz,
hmm yeah. And our friend Nathan is anytime he's here and I'm preparing to do anything, he's like, "You have to do your dishes right now before we start." I'm like, "Yes, let me do the dishes right now."
Yeah. That's like the whole balancing act too of like what is the best way to do a spiritual cleansing of the home. It's like, well, we're
Physically
going to
clean
start
it.
with physical
Yeah.
cleaning. Yeah.
Yeah,
Literally.
that not only is that going to have the energetic effect, but I'm like, this is how could we possibly do any spiritual cleaning if there's shit that we're tripping over when we're trying to bring the mop bucket with us,
yeah. I mean, I even had spirits be like, I do not like, don't like go shower first before you even have this conversation. Not because I was like smelly or dirty or like that, but because it's a somatic way to reset. And it reminds me as well of like, Sarah, you earlier mentioned like leaving food out for the spirits on the table, and it's interesting how. I really was like, okay, yeah, the table, not in the kitchen sink where ambient dead and other ghosts could come up the drain and lick it clean, right? And it's why so many traditions insist on, at the very least, keeping the actual sink free of crumbs and so on, because of the spirits that will come through and try and take that. But if you want to leave things for the spirits to eat while you're away and give them some privacy to do that, the table is a fine place to do so. That's where everyone else was eating too.
Yeah, invited guests,
Yeah,
right? This
yeah.
idea of invited guests, invited dead.
Mhm.
It even goes so far as like sometimes folks won't sleep in their beds that night.
Mhm.
They'll
Mhm.
sleep on the floor. They'll sleep somewhere else.
Mhm.
This idea of, like those beds can be used by their ancestors, that night.
Mhm.
So it is about preparedness and understanding like, okay, so this food here is intentionally set, you know but yeah, the crumbs in your sink are hardly intentional.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting too because of I mean with the whole telling them birthdays and keeping them abreast of news and information, they really can help you prepare. Like so much of like the around this time of year, around the solstice and especially around New Year, like I'm washing my door, I'm washing the whole house, I'm throwing old stuff away. I'm reflecting on ways I could have shown up better in community, ways community could have shown up better for me. We were talking about a little bit about that before we started recording, about how we have this kind of mutual practice of reflecting and really like opening roads. But like, what does it mean to open a road? Like, can you be prepared to walk it? And what is it to close some roads and be like, this is I'm going to make an intentional desire desire to move away from this. For me, I think New Year's resolutions, or even that kind of practice in and of itself, I recite them with my house spirit, but I also tell them like this resolution. I mean the resolution part very seriously. It's a desire. It's an oath. It's an attempt to take on more responsibility and to say that like I'm gonna do my best to make this happen, and I'm not gonna hold myself to like a purity standard. Well, I'll like be upset with myself if I don't make it, but it's a thing I'm also asking for help for there to be more room in my life for it. And what does it mean for me to make that room? What does it take for me to accept that room when I have it? It becomes an important part of that process, even more so than, baptizing teas and holy water and putting brown sugar and white sugar and grains in front of my door and flicking holy water and oils onto it. I think it's a lot of it is like, well, it's like asking for a lover, right? It's like, well, do you have room in your life for a lover? Like, would your schedule accommodate it? Would you be present enough to really like sit with that person, or a new job, or like, would you be able to kind of handle the responsibilities of the job that you're asking? And if the answer is yes, then great. And if no, what would it take to get there? I think it's a beautiful time for like winter reflection.
Yeah, I agree completely. Yeah, because I often find in my own practice, it's just like, okay, I assess where did I spend energy this year that perhaps was not as beneficial for me as I thought it was going to be. Like I think, that assessment period of the end of the year is beautiful. And I think it is also really important not to be hard on yourself about it,
Mm.
because we can totally get into that shame spiral,
Oh yeah.
blah blah blah. And no, it's not about that. It's just understanding that like we're humans doing human things most of the time, human, FYI. But
Wiping sweat off brow.
but it's just like you're generally living on this plane, and while you're doing that, we're subject to spending energy in different in forms, and understanding, like you said, like if I want to invite more in, do I have the threshold for that? And what does having that threshold look like? Like you can't just instantaneously have all of everything you want if you've not laid the table for it, right? Like you have to do the prep work and those and that relationship work, not only with your house spirits, but like the relationship with your life, your own life, like and how you can do that without like, driving yourself crazy.
Hmm. Absolutely. With health spirits, one of the things I'm so fascinated by is the different kind of categories of them. We've touched a lot on the one that is the original ancestor, which it's one thing if it's your farm, like you were saying, like with your cousin, it's one thing if it's like it's your family, it's your lineage, it's your dead. It's another thing if you buy a house and you move in, that's someone else's dead. Um, I have Kay and I have a really good friend who's Trinidad. He practices a form of folk Shaktism, and one of the interesting things that he raised is like in his tradition, they are really conscious of what it is to live on the home or to build a temple on a property that was not your ancestors, right? Like you were brought to Trinidad, let's say from India, or like what happens when you immigrate to America or Canada, and that original spirit may be someone who owned that deed a long time ago, but they're still present on some level, especially in older traditions where like you also bury your dead where you live, on the same farm in the same area, or the cemetery is nearby. And so what is it to appease that spirit? What is it to bring in new house spirits from your culture, like house deities or deities that protect the home, or hearth gods, or and to get familiars from them or intermediary spirits from them that become spirits that protect that space? And then also, what is it to invite one intentionally, or for one to just kind of stroll in and be like, I'm also here, and I'm less about the original person who owned it and more about the land, more about the structure, more about the ambient dead, and so on. It could create a whole hierarchy that now has to be paid attention to. And I think that one place where that can be quite tricky as well is, um, let's say original person owned the land, or was there, you're dead, so your house spirit, because it's your dead coming through. If you marry and someone moves in, their dead coming through as well and negotiating some space. And then sometimes like someone that you invoke. Like Key and I wrote about the PGM 11A. That's 1-40. So that's Apollonius of Tana's old serving woman, which is a ritual to conjure a house spirit, really like a woman, a female spirit that comes through the goddess Nephthys. It's a kind of Egyptian influenced ritual. You get a human tooth and a donkey tooth from her. You have your foot set over a donkey skull while you're conjuring everything. You have to put the glyphs on the forehead of the donkey with a black dog blood. We did this, and it was really interesting because now it's like half of the process was after this ritual was done was introducing the spirit to existing house spirits and being like and she had to become subservient to them, not in the sense of like literally obeying them, but more in like the pecking order of who has authority over what. She was newer, and so she becomes an assistant and a helper to existing house spirits, but doesn't necessarily usurp them despite her connection to this goddess.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I can see that. Like I mean there's a hierarchy in my apartment, and it's always so funny when spirits tell you about the other spirits in your house.
Yeah.
It's something. I had that happen recently this year, where one of my primary tutelary spirits was like, um hello, these people over here, they need to be taken care of with, they need to be fed, and I'm like, oh, like, how did I miss that? Like, it was like one of those moments through divination, literally being like basically snapped at and like, pay attention, like,
Mhm.
and sometimes that happens too, right? Like, um depending on the hierarchy of your house and how that their own network of how they work, they'll remind you of what needs to happen somewhere else in your house.
Yeah, totally. Like, even, with all of these household spirits, like ancestralizing or ancestralized or just forming a part of the family unit that you have, it's kind of the nice balance to the house becoming a lighthouse to other spirits, where now the thing showing up at the door is something else's problem. It's like you can go about your ritual business otherwise, and there are these spirits that you can rely on, and that they themselves rely on you for certain things to form that balance and pull everything back into that household harmony that we were talking about.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's so key. Like a lot I many, many moons ago, before I had a very succinct practice and a lot of good wording and door work, I used to um get visited a lot at
Mm.
my door, like spirits showing up at my door, knocking to get in, and having this very like literally being sleeping and having to get up in my dream and see who's at the door kind of moment.
Mm. Mhm.
Like, I'm sleeping, but I'm going to my door, and looking out and seeing who's there and being like, you cannot come in here, right? Like, and I had those dreams for many years before I really got into a solid practice of working with my house spirits and also having the warding and taking care of that, because a lot of the work that I do does become it, you become that lighthouse. And so people will show up at the door, and I will actually get warned if one of my wards needs to be redone or re-upped, or something needs to be, because as best as we try to keep on top of it, sometimes you miss something. I'll get warned by that dream.
Mm. Mhm.
The knocks will happen, and I'll be like, yes, here you are. And it's one thing if the knocks just happen, it's another if you have to keep going in your dreams to get up and see who it is, right? There's a difference in that, at least for me. And a lot of the work that I do within my house to keep my house a pleasant place for all, sure that I don't have to get up in the middle of the night to
Yeah,
see
yeah.
the door.
No, totally. And it's interesting too because sometimes it's like with that whole lighthouse aspect, like whether it's getting like weird like knocks, or whether it's like feeling like something is always hungry and getting attention, or whether it's like these dream experiences, right, where you're trying to answer the door and talk to the spirits and be like, who even are you, like what do you need? So much of that, I think, in my practice came because I had some similar issues when I was younger. Was like I didn't really have a notion of like what it is to have firm boundaries as to like I am offering to spirits and I'm trying to have a good relationship with them, and I really want to like cultivate more and more spirit activity versus like everything else is watching me do that and wants a piece of the cake, as it were. And once I had some better door guardians and protections in place and some other things, or like I feed my threshold a lot. Like anytime I like it gets a bit of the water from every day, like or even like if I put water in my roses of Jericho, like I'll always throw the water on the threshold and be like bring good things in, like my doorstep, like literally the welcome mat, as it were, everything in front. Like I'm doing a lot for that space. Like I offer to the physical key that opens to my house. And even like in some of these like farming traditions, from my mentors, the rooster, the reason the rooster is such a primary sacrifice for the house and for the door is, one, like the rooster can scare away spirits with its crow, and he, is, kept in a stable to protect the horses, to keep, especially from fairies that might ride them, that might knot their mane into different knots and stuff like that, that might like exhaust them and so on. And also, the rooster is, as like the one who heralds the dawn, heralds the light, and also has feet that scratch at things and destroy things and kind of peck things away, is going to literally protect the property. And so that's often they'll be buried underneath the threshold or under the hearth, or the yearly, sometimes around Petka's Day or Demetrius's Day, you might like sacrifice one and have the feet crossed, at the main like door, and so on and so forth. Because really what you're saying is like, hey, it's not just me and my house spirit that are keeping watch, okay? There's other things that are going to be policing you and making sure that everyone has their space, but there's a reason the horses don't come out of the stable into the house, and there's a reason that we sleep in here and not in there.
Yeah, that's well said. Because yeah, you have to have good boundaries. Like having good boundaries is such a skill in life, right? Like
Actively in development.
yeah, same.
Forever.
But it's like it's even with like what we were talking about at the end of the year and reassessing. It's just like it's like boundaries with yourself, the boundaries of your home, and what is it to be in the home, what is it to be outside the home, and who's where, and these spaces are important because they allow us to have the energetic container for what we need to grow, right? Like, and not be wasting energy in directions that are not beneficial, right? Like, and making sure that the ecosystem is balanced in a way, like, and functional.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Uh, if do I recall correctly that I was just thinking about the rooster thing and what those boundaries are, as we were just saying. I read someplace that as an animal, the rooster can become substituted with like the dog or the cat instead. In certain parts of Europe, like I remember seeing that I think was it in the Netherlands that the cat is used instead, or was that in England? If I recall correctly.
Yeah, the cat can be used usually further south. I'm
Mm.
most familiar with it in like an alpine and kind of mountain context.
That's what I was, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, where it's interesting too because there's a material culture of cat sacrifices to one of the walls of the house in like the very traditional house building styles of the region. Usually the one that is facing like the coldest and most kind of um, dangerous winds on which all of these um, wild hunts and old lady spirits that are out at night this time of year tend to come from. But it's interesting too because to the point of the rooster, the cat is something that both scares away other monstrous spirits, but also is capable of commanding the spirits of the household. Like it is the point at which you dispatch other things. And those spirits that kind of haunt your own house and the spirits that haunt the land that you live on. This it's usually referred to as like a large cat in some of the stories, like a Schreitel and Wasserbar is one that I'm thinking of from like the Middle High German, where it's also kind of interesting because this term is conflated with a bunch of different things, meaning giant or like sorcerer. So those kind of mountain giants that often become, ancestralized or themselves familiars or consorts and things like this. But yeah, this is the performance of that sacrifice, and having it there is the next point by which you can just go and knock on that wall and be like, hey, something is amiss. You go figure it out and be yourself the sorcerer that you by pun and by right are.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think I recall now. I just found the citation in Likoto's book. It's the dog that replaces the rooster in Sweden and Denmark in some parts, and it's not surprising either, right?
Yeah.
In terms of the dog as this premier necromantic animal, is like the one that haunts the cemeteries and the one that scares the spirits away and keeps them in line for sure.
Mhm.
For us, it's always been a rooster in Russia as well, I believe, at least in the western parts of Russia, where it's that's the one that protects the domovoi, the one that even becomes the mount of the domovoi, like the domovoi can ride him, which is kind of cute to imagine. But it also polices the horses, right? Protects them from all those nasty things that might intrude. I think this leads me to wonder about the complications of like in terms of sorcery, in terms of like the spirit, even like I even tell mine if I'm about to summon something. Like I'm like, hey, I'm gonna do a ritual. I'm gonna call something into the home. Just letting you know. Don't be shocked. But what it is to create one. So in my part of the world, we have a pretty nasty uh, ritual of the talisman. This spirit etymologically probably comes from the Turkish for spell or talisman, or from the Greek telesma for talisman. But this is a spirit that is essentially artificially made. It's one that it's said originally, apparently, like the lore says that this was people it was the oldest woman in the house, or it was a really old person who was willingly decided to be buried in the home, or sometimes sacrificed and buried and turned as an intercessor. And so they live under the floorboards. Their head will usually be somewhere under the hearth, under the chimney, and they will become the main intercessor. So quite literally like an intentional form of making someone into a house spirit. But over time, as this is clearly no longer practiced, as it were, it became a thing. My parents, for example, they work in construction, and all throughout the village, when I was younger, we would hear, "Don't walk by a house that's being actively constructed. It's being actively built at noon, because when the sun is at its height, your shadow will be your actual height. And if someone takes a measure of your shadow and knows your exact height to the millimeter, cuts that length and puts it into the house that's being built, over the next 40 days, your life will drain, and as you pass, you will become the house spirit. You will become the talisman. So hence the name for this has to do with talisman, because it's a man-made created spirit that basically is saying, I want fertility, I want luck for this place, and it's brand new, and I'm not planning on having any of my family live here or die here yet, and I'm not going to do it myself, so I'll take you. And it becomes this thing of like being very careful about that, of like hunching when you're walking by houses that are being built and stuff like that, or scratching yourself so it's not you, because otherwise the notion is, it's like, if it's not going to be a cat or rooster or something like that, or a snake, if you're really witchy, a toad that you bury into your threshold that causes rain to fall, is one of our rituals. It's a person.
Wow. It's like co-opted. You're like walking by and you're like, I'm just enjoying my walk. And
Yeah. It's witchcraft, baby. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's but one of the things about I still hear about it. There's still this kind of cultural fear of like walking by houses as they're being built, especially around noontime, and what it is to like be very careful about like your personal links and stuff like that, because of what it is to be contained. And I find it interesting about that the 40-ish days that this takes place is also the same time of period, like after someone passes, that you don't speak ill of them, that you're extremely careful. You don't want them to become a vampire. You want to make sure that there's, even for the Banja Večer or for Christmas Eve, like you mention their name and they are a recently deceased person, you spill a little wine under the table. You say nothing but good things. You hope to see their face in the gravy. You hope to scry them in the Christmas candles. You hope to have only praise good things about them, even if they owe you money, even if they're kind of an asshole, because you want to make sure, because they're lingering nearby, and you want to make sure that, okay, my affairs are in order, everything's okay. I can take St. Michael's hand and go into the afterlife. So that in addition to all the different rituals that we do to make the body relax and closing their eyes or pouring wax over their eyes, if they were awake and had a face of shock, and all the things that we do to kind of make sure that that transition is smooth. We're really, in some ways, it's the complete opposite. This is the witchy version of that, where you're agitating this person's life and taking their extra lifespan and turning them into their home so they could have a greater vigor. And it's interesting too, because I think about what it is to psychic friends of mine, as it were, who moved into apartments and like were getting haunted super bad, no matter how much protection, and like they're competent practitioners. They have like lots of amulets and protection, and they have even seated spirits that are seated in vessels of different traditions. And they were like, I don't know what's going on. And of course, it turns out that there was somebody who died in a building and never got proper rights or was disturbing the space. And it's like all of your protection cannot necessarily trump someone where this is their home. Like they still have right to pull shit. And so they had to find some way to make peace with that spirit and leave them an offering, but at a distance, and request that, like, at the very least, let there be peace between us while I'm here.
Yeah. It makes me think of like, again, it's just like what we've been talking about is just like these layers and layers of relationships, right? Like, and how to be on good terms, and like, like not how not to be haunted.
Let me know when you figure that one out.
And how much of it does come down to this idea of goodwill, which is very much a big part of this season, right? Like this kind of time of Yule, the end of the year, it's just like this idea of goodwill, right? Like, and goodwill, and as they say, that includes spirits, of course, and it's just like, it also makes me think of the danger of this time, right? Like, because this time is inherently dark, right? And a lot of the folklore around this time has to do about A, how dark it is, and B, how dangerous it is, and how many spirits are out there. I mean, a lot of this, is because the night is ruling, and there are a lot of creatures and spirits and entities that live during this time, that call the dead to them, that call other spirits to them, that just kind of like exist in this, and in this permeating night, right? Like, where my ancestry is from, it's literally permeating.
Yeah.
Like, it's like that polar night, kind of very little sunlight is getting through, and so there are these creatures that are to protect, and these creatures to kind of spook, right? Like, this time of year in Finland is just like, we can get into the whole Santa sphere if we want to, but in Finland it begins with that Yule goat, and sort of like, we talk about the goodwill, but then there's also kind of like you were saying, Svinga, and it makes me think of like, there's a day called Saint Nuts Day, and it's the end of the sort of like holiday season, and it was the time where the Yule goat would go around and just kind of like terrorize people at their doors, right? Like, and demand, gifts, and sort of like, and be that spirit that's at your door waking you up in the middle of the night. And they would wear, the horns and the masks, and like demand beer and wine and food, and so I think that's an interesting thing too. It's just like, yes, the goodwill is important, but maybe you could get a knock at your door, and maybe there's a Yule goat out there,
Yeah.
Yeah. Makes me think of like all of the sagas and stories and legends about like just the raw importance of hospitality around this time. Especially
Might be Odin on your door. You're starting to be a beggar. Yeah.
yeah. especially like you were saying earlier, Sarah, with like how much goodwill can you extend to yourself, your spirits, the people around you, especially now, is hyper important. Like
Mhm.
the are you a good host to anything showing up?
Right. Are you a good host to and like how do you tell like the spirit that is like at your door for a reason to kind of like create the good mischief, right? Like to embody that, and like so that you do give the gifts, you do give the that hospitality, you know.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. The Taliesin thing with like the created house spirit, Key, I know you mentioned this before in our treasure hunting episode, but like so often, the last guy that you throw in, you kill him and you bury him with the treasure just so you can protect the treasure, or the cat or something like that. It
Yeah.
becomes the same kind of thing. In that way, like what are you protecting when there's ghosts and goblins and things out there in the winter that are maybe gonna try and steal some fertility or try and take a piece? For us, like the winter season really begins on November 8th with Demetrius of Thessaloniki's Day, because that's the beginning of the wolf days, and that's the official start of winter for us. It's never the winter solstice because by then it's too late. Like it's already there. Like you have to start earlier to kind of address the difficulties of the winter season. And so going into even like Cosmos and Damien, Archangel Michael. This is on the Julian calendar. Going into Saint Barbara, Saint Nicola, and so on, Varvara Nicola, going all the way into Christmas. And afterwards, between Christmas and Epiphany, we have these days, right? As Sarah was saying, the Nekršteni Dani, that's what they're called for us, the unbaptized days. Like these are the really difficult days. These are when kids aren't supposed to go outside after dark. The spirit known as plakavats, the plakavci, literally the criers, might come and try and like harass people. They're basically like ravens with baby heads. Very, very fun. And just screaming and begging for milk. These are sometimes referred to as the nekrštenci, or the unbaptized ones, meaning like kids who died, before they were baptized. But this is where the Karankonjala, these ghouls, come out and ride people's backs and break them. People born during this time, allegedly, their souls belong neither to God nor the devil, so it's a very witchy time to be born. You have all these notions of the wild hunt, especially around Samobor in Croatia, where these riders claim the earth. They have a legendary hunter who inserted the Eucharist into his rifle so he can always aim straight, who leads this procession of wild, tormented, lost spirits. And it's a dangerous time. The Karankonjala are out, the Nekrštenci are out, the Vampiri, you don't want anyone who dies during this time to be spoken of negatively. They could easily become a vampire, or maybe automatically will be. But really, it's a hard time agriculturally, and so many of these oral stories and myths come from that agricultural understanding of like, why are the wolves so scary? Because they can actually completely destroy your livelihood. Like if they get into your sheep pen, like you're done. What and this kind of All Souls Day time that stretches all the way into Epiphany. Really, it's you're making good with people that you owe things to. You're apologizing where and asking for apologies where you're owed them, and giving them when you owe them, and making good on debts. And if you can't pay off a debt, you at least give a penny or something, or you at least acknowledge verbally, hey, I know I still owe you for that one. I'm not taking your patience for granted. I just really can't like pay it back, but I'm grateful. It's a time to be gentle to each other because the world is harsh. The spirits are harsh and very discerning, and certainly not very forgiving. But the world is harsh, and I love, Sarah, so much of what you mentioned about being kinder to yourself, because it's so easy to just feel like, oh, it's me perceiving all these spirits, I'm just responsible for everything. And it's like, no, you're really not. We put that on ourselves, but we're not. And it's these relationships aren't going to go vanish if we forget something one day. We can just try and keep in the way that your best friend is, and in your friends, hopefully, not going to vanish if that happens. It's just about being accountable, and stating clearly where you're at, and what you're able to give.
Absolutely. And sometimes getting hit in the face by another spirit who tells you that somebody else is doing something.
Hey, there's a line forming.
Yeah, exactly. Accountability is what it is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, so many times I thought I'm doing great, everything's fine, I'm on top of my game, and then like, oh, and the spirit's like standing in the corner. I'm like, oh, yeah, forgot that one, my bad.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a fun time. Vivara, we're actually recording on Vivara's day. So it's Barbara for us. The 17th of December, because this is a time when you grow Christmas wheat, and really you're growing the wheat, and you're also making her a whole porridge of her own, to bring prosperity to family. But the wheat, as you tend it, as the solstice passes, and eventually you get to Christmas, and the days are getting longer, and the light of Jesus is coming back, and all these other things are happening. It's a time when you don't typically divine for yourself, and you typically are very careful, even with your house spirit, to like ask for oracles and things. You just observe passively, and sometimes kind of like how the first 12 days after New Year, you can kind of scry to see what the next 12 months weather will be in some traditions, including for us. I know this is the case in Iberia as well. One of the things that you're doing from Vivara onwards is you're taking note of omens. You're keeping your candle, your beeswax candle that you have for your table that grows in the middle of the Christmas wheat. You usually put like a shot glass in the middle of the wheat so that you can keep the candle stable. You keep it anointed. And then when it's time to light it on Christmas and actually cut the wheat and trim it, you can officially divine again. Maybe I'm actually this year enchanting a series of wax pouring spoons and wax melting spoons and keys with, I selected ones that with, funny enough, your namesake key, you were there, you helped me at the, pick the ones with the biggest holes to be able to actually pour wax through them. And you do this divination on Christmas in a copper bowl or in a brass bowl. And when you take the wax out, when it cools in the water, you can put it up into the wall and see the shadow that it makes. And now now you have this idea of like, oh, okay, that's kind of my omen for the future. You can keep that on your house spirit shrine and so on. So I'm making these. There's other dates you can do this on as well. So I'm making a set and enchanting them for kind of clear divination during this time. This is really when you're not even really supposed to note your dreams too much, because this is when your dreams belong to the mother of the moist earth, who's sleeping with her sons, the sun and the moon, within her. As the moon dies and the sun rises again, that's when dreams come back into this world, really.
That's lovely. I think we have we have divination and pieces that have kind of come from like kekri, which is like the
Mhm.
sort of like autumnal sort of Halloween-esque sort of um celebration that have kind of bled over into that kind of Christmas tide, New Year's tide time where we have the tin scrying wax ceremancy, as you were just
Mhm.
we have that. We have a lot of omens around weather, and like if the weather is this, then this is happening this day, and it's all sort of based on the day that it happens on, right? Like if the weather is good here, it will be good there, right?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
Very much kind of like um setting you up for the rest of the year. There's a few even just like uh even love marriage omens, like that you could take a mirror into the dark and scry your lover or your husband, really,
Mm.
during this time. So a lot of that, we don't have so many taboos around not reading during this time, but a lot of them are sort of based on this largely scrying, which makes sense for.
Totally. Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's the thing too, is like I want to clarify. It's not reading with like beans or tarot cards or like physical implements. It's only scrying. So you're quite right. It's like this notion of passive observation, of noting when things are happening, when certain knocks are there, when certain things are showing up in like wax and so on. It's really this notion of like reflection and contemplation, and seeing what comes on the surface, like what kind of rises on the canvas of your life when you're not actively looking. And there's absolutely, like, girls will wash their faces and hope to see like their husband's like their future husband's face, or maybe initials will form in certain things, and so when you have a hint as to which one of your suitors will be the one. But it's something that I really like about this too, is there's this notion that when Barbara was fleeing persecution, the wheat grew and obscured her in that way. Like, if people, I know in other Catholic cultures, like it might be Barbara's Day, it might be Lucy's Day when you sow the Christmas wheat. For us, it's pretty essentially Varvara, for those of us who observe that feast. But it's Also just the idea of fertility returning, and the idea like as this grows and becomes abundant, so too will my future be. And in some ways, you're kind of nudging things along and saying, yes, I'm passively observing and trying to make sure that like things will be abundant. But like if I make a lavish Christmas feast and I have a good wheat, like I'm kind of saying like, hey, spirits, hey, world, that's how it better be. Actually, it's not just I can handle bad weather, but like I want to make sure I have fortune through it all.
Yeah. It's always so wonderful to kind of announce to this time of the year. It's like, all right, cool. Darkest part is coming to an end. We're able to take stock again and be like, all right, we're good going into next year. Winter is, if not over, survived. Um, and start everything anew.
Are we surviving 2025, guys?
I haven't had a sentient thought since August.
Oh.
I think I was calling you dusty earlier.
Yeah. I'm gonna need both of you to take a spatula to what remains of me on the floor and drag me up. No, I think we're getting out of it. We're getting out of it, and you know what? May we have greater fortune, maybe have greater opportunities, maybe have more time and energy and comfort. Maybe have some good comfort, more of that energy going into the future, so that we can actually enjoy all the good things that are coming our way. I believe in our magic that will bring it. Now let's believe in ourselves that we can accept it and we can be gentle with ourselves and with our loved ones and sharing it.
I love that.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Do you have anything you want to plug in general? We mentioned your websites. Anything new on the horizon people should be keeping their eyes out for?
Check the Lobi website. After the new year, I'll be offering some new services and bringing more candles. Right now, my Yuletide collection is out. And if you want to get on that, I do enjoy making those candles so much. And they're less the spell candles and more the sort of container candles. But I have heard from various people that even in that form, the candles bring with them a light that is other than just the light you spark with a lighter. So feel free.
When a witch makes your candles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Candles. only good things can come, right? Yeah. With that.
It's such a very convincing cackle.
Yeah.
No, but seriously, guys, go check out Sarah's candles. I'm about to go place an order myself. But it's they're really incredible and also just fucking fantastic smells. Really, like not that artificial dumb shit at your grocery store. I'm sorry, I'm not ready for hot cocoa to smell like burnt sandalwood.
Agree.
Yeah.
Well, wonderful, and I mean, we'll have you back on at some point. We got to talk ceromancy. We got to talk multivalent. You know, all the lead pouring, tin pouring, wax pouring, because it's such a between Serbia and Finland and certainly Germany and Iberia, there's so much there, and I feel like it's so underrated. But I'm excited to put these little charms out, and I'm sure we'll be. I would love to collab with you at some point on some candles and some charms that can go together, just for greater divinatory insight with some of the saints and spirits we love both.
I would love that.
Mm-hmm. Well, amazing. Oh, thank you so much for being on. Akashic Records wise, my suggestion for this time is Karmana's Candlesticks. It's a sexy love song. We all need more of that right now. And I also the name is cute.
And then for me, I have clippings say the name because we all have some candlesticks in the dark. And with lovey arts, you can maybe have some vision of bodies being burned too.
Oh my god, such a good song. Very different vibe. But absolutely love it. And Sarah, you blew us out of the water with this one.
Mine was Hermannaleg.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my god. And we were losing our shit because like, oh my god, ending off our final episode of 2025 with our little theme song. Not Hermana League. Amazing. And also so sexy, tempting a Christian boy, being a cool troll. Just absolutely rocking his shit. I mean, I just fuck nothing wrong. Speaking of which, is that nothing wrong?
Nobody is beating the allegations today.
Nobody, no. Just wanted posters for all three of us. Mm-hmm. No, I love it, and a very very good one to wrap up on for the year. So thank you. And this is going to be Garmarna's beautiful remaster. All right, and our license to depart. Key, if I may give a suggestion.
Yes.
I wanted to do a St. Barbara prayer just because when we're recording this, and also because I really want my Christmas wheat to grow good this year, guys. Like I'm enchanting a bunch of stuff. I'm making some charms. A collab is on the horizon with Vanessa of Sword and Scythe as well that we're starting today, but doing for a very different spirit. But Divination indeed said we should start today because of all that good the Christmas harvesting juju.
Absolutely. Saint Barbara, you are stronger than the tower of a fortress and the fury of hurricanes. Do not let lightning hit me, thunder frighten me, or the roar of cannons jolt my courage or bravery. Stay always by my side so that I may confront all the storms and battles of my life with my head held high and a serene countenance. Winning all the struggles, may I, aware of doing my duty, be grateful to you, my protector, and render thanks to God, the creator of heaven, earth, and nature, who has the power to dominate the fury of the storm and to mitigate the cruelty of the world. Saint Barbara, pray for us.
I know you by many names.
She of the bangs.
You she with the bangs.